Hey guys, this is What If Tatsumi from Agame Got Killed was the Avatar. Let's dive into it. So we start our story off with how Tatsume would become the Avatar and how the Avatar would play a role in the Agame Got Killed verse or universe. So we start our story off with the origin of the Avatar, and it would be the same with Rava and everything else, and basically the yin and yang to the entire mythical universe of Agame Got Killed. With the universe and the backstory of the Avatar existing in this world, the creation of the Imperial Arms would have happened around the age bending would have started to fade away. During this time, the Avatar would need the most, because after this time, the Avatar would have been around for centuries, decades. But eventually, us leading to the, 60th Avatar, and that would be Tatsumi. Now, Tatsumi would be born in the same village, in the same area, because years from there, one huge, terrific, horrific, simple, war happened, breaking upon and breaking down each tribes of the water, earth, fire, and wind nation, breaking them all to nothingness, and eventually having the art of bending fade away into nothing. Only about 5 to 4% of the entire human population would have known or would have learned how to bend. So I'm going to give a few characters on the roster of Night Raid bending. If you guys want me to give a specific character in this anime of bending besides Tatsume, but specifically if you want me to give bending to a specific type of character in Night Raid's cast or Night Raid's roster, just go down in the comments. But what would happen is we would see Tatsume would have started to grow up. But with Tatsume growing up and the whole lineage of avatars being kind of lost to time, and also the whole entire history of bending being kind of a myth and actually being fabricated by the capital as to be something false and not even a thing in itself. And you guys might be thinking, is Death going to be a waterbender? I don't know if I'm going to change her and turn her into a waterbender, or still give her Imperial arms, or both. I don't know, but you guys go in the comments and give me some ideas on what I should do for specific characters and if I should get them bending or not. But what would happen is we would get switched to Tatsume on his 6th birthday, and this would happen and would have changed Tatsume's life. The village priestess there, or the chief there, would have known from a very young age that Tatsume could have been a bender, but he never knew in his million years that Tatsume would have been the Avatar. The Avatar was known or was believed to be dead, the cycle to be over, because in the last 16 years, in the last couple of years, the last 100 years, matter of fact, the Avatar hasn't been seen, heard of, or even rumors of it even spreaded by ear. The Avatar would have been lost to time, and if the Avatar ever did come out, the capital would hunt and rip that person apart, and would have used it for a array of different things. And also, just for the capital was kind of a mixture of the Earth tribe and the Fire Nation. So it's kind of like merged together in between those. So multiple different soldiers and pretty much generals will be able to bend, but not good, because bending teachers would be a freaking rarity in this universe, because bending would probably be kind of lost to time around this area of the capital or this area of the country or the world. It's simple. But what happened is we would see that Tatsume would have been one of the last members of a very ancient clan of airbenders. Tatsume's village would have been very quiet and isolated from the world. But eventually, around Tatsume's 6th birthday, something would have happened. His bending would have started to activate. His body would have started to change, and Rava would have started to try to talk to him and try to guide him into changing the world. The world needed to know the importance of bending and not to lose who they are and the gift the spirit realm gave them. The gift the Avatar was able to bring to them. How bending could be a way of life, and people have lost their way. Lots of people have, and they need to find better ways to save them. So what would happen is, Tatsume would have been given a vision from Raba. Raba, knowing that Tatsume was only a child at this time, but trying to convince him that the world isn't so happy and sunshine and rainbows. The capital is filled with many dangers. And Tatsume will forget majority of this, but the main thing he would remember of a long rant Raba would have given him is that the Avatar is a symbol of hope, peace, and justice. And you need to bring peace and justice to this world. And I will give you the guidance you need, but I can only do so much for you. What you need is a teacher. What you need is a sensei. So what happened is Tatsume would have woken up. And we get switched about a couple years later, and Tatsume is around 16 to 17 years old. Tatsumi right now at this point is training vigorously to basically be the best, as he's been trained for the last couple years by the village priestess. And the village priestess would have been an airbender, one of the last ones in the entire world, to be honest with you, because the airbending tribe would have went through another freaking extinction after we would see our Aang being born a little bit earlier in the timeline. So pretty simple, the pretty much airbending clan would have died out, and this universe's version of Aang would have been Tatsume. But let's just say Aang would have never had the chance to be born. Tatsume would have been the next Avatar. So pretty frank, the whole extinction and termination and killing and pretty much genocide of the airbending nation or airbending tribe would have happened. And would have happened around the time they would have tried to strip, and the capital mainly would have tried to strip and throw away the whole entire thinking of bending in itself. So what happened is, well, pretty much this tribe would have only had a few earthbenders in its midst. And this earthbending teacher would have been the only one that could actually earthbend good enough to protect himself and also do a bunch of other tricks and know the most about earthbending, as he would have trained Tatsume for the last few years in the village about earthbending, about how to be passive and how to train himself. He would also train him in the way of the sword as well, as he would have been pretty much a merge of the swordsman that would have taught Tatsume when he was in the village. So what happened is, well, Tatsume would have learned the art of the sword, him being as qualified with the sword as he is in original canon, but him focusing more of his physical abilities into earthbending and being passive and moving and flowing with the air. So Tatsume's build would have been similar, the same, but a lot more toned and perfected for quick and precise movements, like dodging arrows and dodging multiple attacks and swift kicks, throws, punches, and slashes, and even bullets, because bullets exist in this world with, Imperial arms, but pretty much muskets. I think that's the thing in this timeline, muskets at this time. So pretty simple, Tatsume would have mainly been trained to have more of a Spider-Man-like physique, kind of Andrew Garfield type physique, having a little bit more of a skinnier but yet toned physique built for dodging and pretty much moving with the flow of the wind with his airbending. When Tatsume was ready, he wanted to leave the village to find money for the village, since the village was still kind of pretty much broke. He would have set off with his three friends, as his three friends would have been the same. I'm not going to give them any type of bending because they aren't in. It's only about 2 to 3 besides Tatsume airbenders that are in the village that actually know how to airbend at an extent. All the others haven't been taught, and they ain't going to really waste their time teaching them because they're never going to really have to need to fight, since no one in this entire village even knows airbenders live in this place. And they are mainly training and building up to basically repopulate the entire village with airbenders yet again. But what would happen is Tatsumi would have walked away from the village, saying bye, and basically walking off. He would have thought back to the memory or the dream he had when he was 6 on his way there, after he would have separated from his friends to find their pretty much fortune. As Tatsume would have made his way near the capital, slicing the danger beast into 2 with a huge wind blade and his sword, basically making it look like his sword cut it. But what would happen is Tatsumi would have used his airbending majority of the time to actually power his sword to do huge and dramatic wind slices and slashes. Eventually, he would have taken down the danger beast and would have been pretty much praised by the guards there. The guards would have told him about the capital and how the capital was very corrupt, and that him going there would probably be a death sentence. And most people that go there looking for fortune don't rarely find it. Tatsumi would have gone on about how, I don't care. I'm here to make a huge, triumphant jump. If you could believe me. Yeah. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm here for my village, okay? Tatsumi would have gone on more into why he's doing this, but they wouldn't really want to care. They don't really care. They're trying to get their job done. They're trying to transport these goods. So they would have told him to dip off and go in his separate ways. Tatsumi would have smirked and would have said good travels as he would have went on his merry way. As Tatsumi would have been walking, as eventually Tatsumi would have basically felt something off. He would have looked in the distance as he would have felt like something was off. Something was not right. Tatsumi would have tried to throw away that idea, but a part of him knew that something was happening back at home. But he couldn't stop now. He made this big of a chance, he made this big of a jump, and he couldn't just turn away now when his, family needed the money the most. His village needed it the most. His entire race needed it the most. The airbending tribe, the nation, the literal place he's been raised his entire life depended on him. And now that he doesn't really remember too much about Rava's speech when he was younger, about how he's the Avatar, let's just say Tatsumi hasn't had the motivation he needs just yet. But soon, he'll realize how important he is to this world, and how he will change the dynamic of this world completely. Now, if I didn't go more into depth about the Imperial Arms, the Imperial Arms pretty much are made out of spiritual monsters, pretty much danger beasts, right? But they're also imbued with the powers of the residual magic, or I guess spiritual energy, that bending was made out of, or bending allowed you to use. So what would happen is basically the creation of Imperial Arms would have been basically made from magic plus spiritual magic, and on top of that, bending techniques and the souls of multiple different very strong benders throughout the time, basically taking their souls from their body, from taking their souls from execution or by their deathbed, if they were a order or a general or something like that. And also basically danger beasts being a main part of the ritual as well. So what would happen is, the Imperial Arms in this world would have been a lot more dangerous, and it would be a lot more bloodshed and a lot more intense battles in this fanfiction. But let's just dive right back into the plot point and the storyline of Tatsumi and his character. Now, I won't change too much about Tatsumi's personality, but let's just dive right into it. So we would make our way to the capital, as Tatsumi would have went down to the Adventurers Guild, or the Registration Guild, basically trying to sign up for a general or something like that. He would have been very cocky. Tatsumi being still very cocky and brass, but him remembering that the way of the airbender is to be like the wind. To never stand foot and to always go with your heart, and to never really ever strike first. But what happened is Tatsumi would have still been brass in this situation, and would have still been kind of rejected and been told that he would have to start all over because, they don't know his class, and he's gonna have to start from scratch, just like everybody else. He's not special. He is special, but they tell him not. So Tatsumi sits there defeated, but one weird girl, blonde-haired lady, tells him that he can help him, and that she's a general for the order, and that she could probably give him a good word if he treats her to a meal, some wine, and all his money. As Tatsumi gives him pretty much all his freaking earnings, like a dummy, and she dips off, and Tatsumi waits there for hours and hours and hours. Eventually, the bartender there near the hub, or the Registration Guild, would have told him that she's not coming back, and she scams a lot of people around here, dude. So I think you should try to get back home. I don't think you're not going to find no fortune here. Tatsumi walks off defeated and sits down on the side of the road. But his luck would have came up, if you could say that, and a carriage would have came by him. A woman with blonde hair, well, a young lady with blonde hair, would have talked to him, saying that, I see that you're cold and that it's very dark out here, and you shouldn't just be sitting out here alone. She gives him a helping hand and gives her hand to him. Not in that way, but you know what I'm saying. So what would happen is Tatsumi would have been taken in by the family. as he would have told him, or he would have told them about his village, but keeping the part about the bending tribes, because he would have been told by a young age that bending in general was kind of outlawed. It wasn't outlawed, but it was an art that the capital and multiple different places of the world were trying to pretty much eliminate, thinking there was no real reason or use for, well, bending anymore. But them soonly realizing that bending is a way of life, and that soon it will come back with a huge punch. And, well, Avatar Tatsumi will make that happen. But what would happen is Tatsumi would have talked to them, and eventually, and being told that he could stay the night, as Tatsumi would have gone to sleep that night. Tatsumi would have gone to sleep that night, and he would have basically just been in his own world. The next day, he would have gone to the capital near the market area, basically shopping with the, well, pretty much the Duke's daughter, I think it was, or the young lady that helped him out. As Tatsumi would have eventually just been helped out by one of the guards. The guard says the young lady loves her shopping. Now, we pretty much skip past all this because none of this really changes too much, you know? Pretty much Tatsumi being the Avatar doesn't really pop into the story plot until the fateful night where the story would have had a huge turn. What would happen is we could switch to pretty much, well, Tatsumi in the castle, or pretty much in the estate, as he would have woken up in the middle of the night, him sensing something is off. He would have opened the door, basically him being shirtless with some sort of his traditional robes, as Tatsumi would have been in the same outfit he would have been in the original canon, but him sleeping in a similar outfit that Aang wore, a similar type of bottoms to the well, pretty much airbender nation or airbending tribes, pretty much, well, garments or their pretty much clothing, him having the toe boots and everything like that. So what would happen is Tatsumi would have looked out of the window, seeing people getting murdered and killed. He would have also came across the pretty much two parents of the young lady that took him in a day ago were murdered and killed and slashed. Tatsumi would have eventually ran into a member of Night Raid, actually. Sometimes butterfly effect is real. So he would have ran into, well, some sort of green-haired kid with some sort of things on his wrist, like gloves. He would have noticed or would have felt a shift in the air as a huge amount of pretty much silvery type of strands would have came towards Tatsumi. Tatsumi would have used his airbending to make a huge wave of gust of wind, pushing all of them away. As the guy would have been super geeked out, saying that you're an airbender? Aren't those guys supposed to be extinct? Where have you been? What the heck? As he would have been shot with a huge blast of wind, knocking him cold. As Tatsumi would have ran out the window, blowing the window clean out, as he would have eventually levitated or blown himself down to the ground, him eventually keeping up or pretty much meeting up with, well, the young lady. The young lady would have basically told him to get her in the cabin and to get her safe. The guard would have helped Tatsumi, telling Tatsumi that we have to keep the lady safe, and Tatsumi said yes, of course. As he would have started to get into a fighting stance, as he would have said, I'll keep something special from you guys. But I have to save somebody's life. I'm not the type of person to just let you guys die because I want to keep a secret. So basically we see that Tatsumi starts to airbend and starts to try to push back, well, Akame. Akame shows up, and the amount of orb that she's giving off is insane. I would literally start geeking, bro. Like, dude, I'm meat writing, but she is the bomb. She's literally in the name of the anime. But basically what happened is Tatsumi would have gotten hit with a huge gust of wind pressure from the blade. Tatsumi would have used his airbending to push the blade away from his skin, not getting cut by it. And Tatsumi would have done a triple backflip back into a couple of trees and knocking into the lion girl. The lion girl would have gone for a lunge towards him, but Tatsumi would have dodged to hitting her with a huge gust of wind, blowing her into a tree. Tatsumi would have hit pretty much Akame with another gust of wind, kind of a leg sweep, gusting the amount of wind, like the amount of pretty much land Tatsumi would have covered with that gust of wind was insane. Akame was thrown off of balance, as Akame would have grabbed her balance back, as eventually Tatsumi would have been exactly right in front of her, moving incredibly fast with his wind reduction technique he learned with the pretty much training. Basically simple, Tatsumi would be at the same level of airbending mastery as Aang. Even adult Aang, to put it simple. Not adult Aang, I ain't gonna make that too that OP, because we haven't seen adult Aang And I'm pretty sure Aang as a kid is nowhere near his prime when he was like in his 20s or something. Because Aang was like 12 when the anime or the TV show dropped. So, pretty simple. Tatsumi would have been around the same airbending mastery as 12-year-old Aang. And that's a huge step because Aang is a freaking airbending master at 12 years old, bro. He had his tattoos and everything. Bro was a freaking G. He was a prodigy. So what happened is Tatsumi started to box up both of these dudes, but eventually him being overwhelmed because he never fought somebody as skilled as these guys before. But him going against literal airbending master, an airbending master in his village, as he would have started to dodge and weave, but him getting kind of tired very quickly because he's also trying to pretty much stop them from hurting the, well, lady. As eventually she would have stopped saying that, do you even know what she's done? Do you know why we're even here? As Lionly was heard to yell at Tatsumi, saying that look in the cabin and you'll see. Look in it and you'll see why we're here. Tatsumi is confused. The lady says to stop it and kill them. As Tatsumi says, I don't kill. Tatsumi would have been kind of confused, but also being kind of curious, as he would have used a huge gust of wind, using airbending to blow the door open and seeing all the carnage and rummage that was in here. The bloody bodies, the torturing machines, and he would have seen his friend, his childhood crush, dead, cut open and toyed with like a monster, like she was treated like a toy. He would have looked over and saw his best friend that he left the village with alongside his girl, or the girl, as he would have grabbed him and basically would have taken him out of the bars, telling him that, are you okay? He would have said that, I'm sorry I couldn't make the fortune. I'm sorry I couldn't make a difference. It's okay. It's okay. Can we save him? Is there any type of way we could save him? Akame would have answered Tatsumi saying that there is no way. His body is already decayed, or at least it won't be able to be saved. As Tatsumi would have started to cry, and him getting really mad. His friends' lives gone like that, and his friends saying sorry to him because he couldn't make the fortune. Him not even mad because he's dead, but he would have been dying as Tatsumi eyes would have started to glow. Tatsumi's tattoos that he would have covered up with pretty much skin makeup or types of pretty much makeup he made in the village or paint he made in the village that mimicked his skin, as Tatsumi would have had the Airbending Nation tattoos on. As Tatsumi's body would have started to glow, as his eyes would have gone a bright blue, glowing. The lady would have been scared as Tatsumi would have said, "You're done." As he would have, it would have been like a huge amount of different voices mixed in with Tatsumi's voice. As Tatsumi would have shot a huge gust of fire, burning the lady alive, and doing it slowly too, keeping pretty much rocks underneath her feet, using earthbending to keep her solid, and burning her skin clean off, killing her slowly. As they would have saw this horrific feat happen, as the guard would have tried to stop in, but Akame cut him down. But what happened is Akame would have saw Tatsumi, as Tatsumi would have said that, I'm not done. As he would have used a stupid amount of gust of wind, blowing the entirety of that area, forest of area, including the barn, into smithereens. Tatsumi would have used a huge amount of water bending by the well or the water pipes near the pretty much cabin or the barn, whatever, the dungeon, and basically would have used it to literally start drowning the lion girl. He would have also used airbending to pretty much keep Akame into a solid ball of rock, and also pretty much fortifying it, or basically making it stronger and making it more compact by throwing and grabbing literal obsidian from the ground and chucking it back onto the rock body or pretty much cocoon he was making for Akame. Eventually, Bolette would have showed up, and he would have tried to go in for a huge slash. Tatsumi hitting him with a huge amount of wind pressure, knocking him down to the ground, as Tatsumi would have shot a huge amount of lightning out of his freaking fist, shocking the absolute snot out of the pink-haired girl. And they would have all been laid out. Tatsumi would have gone into another stance, and he would eventually lose his cool, as eventually him getting knocked to the head by Bullet, as Bullet would have gotten back up from his consciousness, knocking him out cold. Bullet would have looked at him as they would have all looked at each other, saying that he was very important and valuable. Akame is saying that we should take him back in, but them saying that we literally just got, well, the line go basically saying, we just got dropped by this dude, and we're just gonna let him live and take him back to our base. What if he just wakes up and starts dropping us again, goes back to the capital, and rats us out? The capital would kill for him. As Akame would have said exactly, we need him on our side. He could be a valuable asset. You saw what he did to that girl. He has morals. He knows at a certain extent what we're going to be doing is going to be good. You can convince him. As we ended off there, guys. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. Deuces.